6 o'clock. Get approval for the agenda or any changes?
So moved.
I'll support.
Thank you. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone have a conflict of interest of any of the items on the agenda? Karen, did you mind making any public comments?
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Minutes of July 14th, the regular meeting. The minutes, has everyone reviewed them? Any changes, any,
I don't know if they're right or not, I wasn't here.
okay.
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Who seconded that?
The minutes of the special meeting, has everyone reviewed those?
Move their approval.
Is there a second?
I'll support.
Thank you. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Communication files,
None at this time.
okay. Old business, July 22nd learning session. That was the session we had with the combination board and the planning commission.
Yeah, ask the chair if we could kind of debrief on this a little bit, because like, obviously you guys were doing a lot of talking, the board was doing a lot of talking. I felt like there were some takeaways from that. That would be really important as we kind of structure the organization, I guess, of this proposed ordinance. So I kind of wanted to see if we could take a chance to debrief and get us input, so we're writing things the way that you guys are envisioning. I guess I've got some quick mental questions. I don't know if, do you wanna say like thoughts that other people got before I go into like kind of what I need?
I don't care what order we do it in. Has anybody got any preference here? Okay, go ahead, Miles.
Okay, there was a couple of big takeaways that I thought would impact kind of how we're organizing our ordinance or the proposed ordinance that we're drafting. One that I thought was pretty important was, go ahead.
For the public, would you refer to what we're talking about, the day?
Yeah, we're talking about the high-intensity infrastructure ordinance, and again, you know, just I guess for the public, the reason that we're talking about it in that manner and not just saying like the data center ordinance is, and it was kind of confirmed, and we felt like vindicated a little bit, that is the correct way to do this. It is wrong and would not create a solid legal foundation if we were to kind of exclude this land use into one area of the zoning ordinance and treat it substantially differently than other similar uses. So by pooling it into, you know, these different uses, it creates a stronger legal foundation on which to regulate any of these high-intensity uses, which would include data centers. One thing that I thought was valuable from the class is, I guess, data center itself. That was kind of interesting, because, I mean, technically Bath Township has a data center. It's called BSNA, and it's right across the street, and they have a bunch of servers, and they're in a basement, and there's data in them. But when people, especially in these like kind of political times, I guess, think about data centers, they're thinking about the Selene project. Like, that's what they mean, the hyperscale generative AI data center. And so I think the first takeaway was we've defined what we're talking about by high-intensity infrastructure land use, but maybe more clearly separating that we're not talking about like servers in a basement that's 70 by 100 square feet. Like, that's not what we're talking about when we mean but that should be, I guess, that's weighted out by its energy draw regardless, but maybe just a mention of that could help the general public. The other thing that I thought was important, I don't know if you guys concur, but was the breaking out of the sound ordinance is, I think, what she referred it to as a standalone ordinance apart from, because how we had it proposed before was including noise as like a subcategory within this. Her take was that it was a stronger legal foundation to just move that apart and make it all industrial, which I think is smart, because then it widens the gap even more then high intensity, or not widens the gap, but widens the scope more than just high intensity infrastructure. It can be any industrial. To do that though, we'll probably have to be a little bit more nuanced in how we write it, cause like A&D repair. I have no idea what the standard decibel output of A&D repair is, but if we make it all,
Depends on the repair.
yeah, it depends, yeah,
They're
like,
beating on a bumper, metal bumper with a hammer.
yeah, so it's like, okay, do you go by average then, you know, like, we'll have to think about that and build that in. But I think that was smart, that was like a big takeaway for me, is there, on those 2 points, I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on the defining data centers and then breaking out sound alone?
And with a sound ordinance, if somebody were to create a beer garden and have a stage, we would need a sound ordinance so that the neighbors would not be impacted as much. So having a separate one would be good.
Yeah, and that's a good scenario, in that scenario, maybe it's like you create a carve out for events.
So don't we have a nuisance ordinance related
We
to
d-
sound?
We do, and that's importantly though, a regulatory ordinance
Right.
and not a zoning ordinance. So this would be like something related to sound, but it would live within the zoning section of the ordinance. So it's regulatory foundation and
Right, right, right.
enforceability is like different.
Okay.
That was my takeaway though, she was talking about a sound related ordinance that lives within zoning. Apart from
Right,
like your
instead of
uses.
Yeah, I-
$15 fine.
Yeah.
It would be a jeopardization of the, if that's a word.
Yeah.
Of the, you know, the site plan or whatever.
And, you know, the tickets that they would get from the code enforcement officer, like, they would gladly accept those tickets and then like run 1,000 generators, you know, it's not gonna matter.
We
Once we
just,
scale it.
Yeah, we did scale it, we could scale it.
we did discuss that during the stamping plant.
During the what?
For the
Oh,
stamping.
yeah, the Norm Fastener. Well, the thing about the Norm Fastener facility though, was we did discuss noise quite a bit, but a lot of it was encased in the facility itself. The problem, the unique challenge with these data centers is like, the noise is produced by something that is existing outside the facility. And I mean, obviously, there's mitigation techniques, and I think we should look at those, like, and again, just for the public to restate it, if anybody's watching this video, you know, you can't just exempt these things. Or you can't just exclude these things. That it comes out of doctrine that was developed in the 60s and 70s related to mobile home parks and the pushback against them at the time. What you can do is try to use the tools within the zoning toolbox to control for externalities created. So sound is a big one. Sound's probably the easier of the externalities to mitigate because you can use setbacks. We can use buffering in terms of like, just like they do on the highway, like it's totally within the nexus of reasonability to require a 20-foot sound dampening wall, just like they do right next to the interstate, with one side of the wall having sound dampening panels. Or, as we've talked about in the past, conifers do a great job of absorbing sound. You do 3 rows of conifers, no conifer shall be seated at less than 6 years in age, you know. So I think there's a lot, or you do all the above.
I think there's a couple things that stood out to me. One is how the Saline project established its own municipal water source.
Yeah.
And I know water is an issue,
Water is the
of concern
hard-
here.
It's the harder of the two.
I imagine that a municipal water source has certain freedoms that a private well would have, or I guess flexibility. I'm gonna look at some from this direction. But I would wonder to what extent that might have impacts on neighboring wells and the like. And so thinking, you know, thinking through that, we might not have much leverage there, in terms of precluding the establishment of a municipal well.
Yeah.
But if there's protections that we can place on neighboring wellheads, I think that would be
One
of
even
interest.
bonding for,
And bonding gets to the second part, and that's the financial structures that, that give us insurance if, one, there are negative impacts of the development, but also if and when the development ceases to operate as a data center. then we're left with, so I
Oh,
think
yeah,
they talk
you
about
needed-
surety bonds and the like.
The decommissioning plan.
I've not been in, you know, the finance end of township operations, but I have never seen in my years of, you know, working with the township, concrete evidence that bonds have actually been taken out. I'm not assuming that they haven't been taken out, but, you know, I,
Don't
Just-
power plants also use significant quantities of water?
It depends on the
For-
type of plant, yeah,
Depending on
sure.
the type of plant,
Depends what
like,
they
isn't
do.
there are, I mean, in Michigan, have there been noticeable effects on aquifers from that type of situation?
Absolutely.
golf
And
courses.
so is
I think,
there, like, regulations already in place for those
Yeah.
types of uses?
They
that
have to
you
get
could-
approval based on their usage, and they do what's called the WWAT, Water Withdrawal Assessment Tool. And when they, it's like a screening, when they fill that out for the permit, so the well driller will apply for the permit, do this tool.
We do
If
the,
it-
the mic.
If it flags something like too much usage, it'll get kicked into a review process. So then it'll be reviewed and that permit will either be accepted or denied.
Okay. One, I think obviously like all the hydrological studies, right, like you have to do them if you're talking about the hyper scale, like right out of the gate. And I think you have to build in, like the hydrological study obviously can't be done by the institution itself. You know, it needs to be done by an independent third party, like of our choosing. So you gotta do that, you gotta do the bond stuff. One thing that was interesting to me from the course that I didn't know, though, maybe this is why they did that in Saline, was I didn't realize to get the state money, it had to be a municipal source.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting.
Yeah.
So that, in that case, sorry, but in that case, that means they're serving the community with that water supply. It's not just for them.
What's the community? Is the community bound by its own
It
boundary
can-
of 700
Well,
acres?
no. No, it'll mean something like it has to supply nearby residents up to, or over like 50 people year-round, and it can't be like a factory, which is this would be kind of that. And they would have far fewer employees there.
Right.
So to have a municipal water supply, they would have to serve nearby communities,
So is,
just to be in that category.
So then they would charge those neighbors that they're serving a rate.
Well, you wouldn't necessarily have to accept it, I'm sure, and they may have
Okay.
private wells already.
Oh, so they would offer
They may have
it.
another
Okay.
water supply, so if they don't have another municipal water supply, that may fit.
I guess, is that, maybe in this is a clarification for the instructor, like a follow-up question, cause that is what Al pointed out in Saline, is like they stood up their own municipal water supply. But I would assume in this area, they'd be approaching Board of Water and Light to tap into a supply.
And can we specify
In this
that? it
very
has to be-
hypothetical situation that there's no evidence of that this will ever happen.
Now, they would probably put their own well in.
And then
That would
create their
be
own
by
municipal
far the
supply.
cheapest for them to do. No, they would just use it themselves.
Well, if they do a well though, then they don't get the state incentives.
Unless
don't get
they
the
offer it,
50-year.
nobody takes it because it's too expensive. But again, the question could be, can we specify who they can draw our municipal water?
Didn't it
And
say they could
eliminate.
also just be the closed loop system as well to
They're still gonna
qualify?
need to seed that water and replace it.
Yeah, it's hard, like, with the Norm Fastener example, like, that would have been a pretty clean closed loop system with treating on site. Just the volume of water that they're drawing from, it's hard for even Board of Water and Light, like, if it was north of I-69, there would have to be like major engineering done to support a user of that scale, if it was north, in this crazy hypothetical situation. But then you have all this spent gray water, and a lot of these have to come up with plans. You can't be putting that much into the SCUMA system, like SCUMA wouldn't be able to take it.
No, but they could do like an on-site treatment system, they could maybe do wetlands to filter it, depending on what it had in it, you know, there's other options.
Yeah, and that's almost hard to talk about in the ordinance, because it's kind of like, it depends. So then you have to talk more broadly about it in the ordinance and just say like, treatment plant, or treatment plan for discharge water shall be reviewed by, you know, blah, 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 blah.
Well, even the city of Lansing proposed thing, they were recirculating water, but they need
Back
more
into
water
the
to
river.
replace it. Because they're using that heated water to heat buildings. Where's that steam going? It goes. So they're using water. Because once it gets to the border right heating system, I mean, you put it downtown, they've got these barrels out there with steam pouring out of them.
Yeah,
They are using water.
well, the Lansing project was probably the most innovative of the data center projects that have been proposed in the state of Michigan, which I ultimately think is why they got the buy-in they did, but then that project didn't come to market, so that's kinda concerning. Okay, in terms of other takeaways that relate to how we're organizing this ordinance, there was a lot of interesting things as it related to sound and how they're measuring sound and what is considered loud, what is considered quiet. Which we were kinda talking about in our planning commission meeting before, that I thought that was, before the, joint one, I thought that was interesting. That will play big for our sound, I'm just looking through our proposed sound ordinance. Was there other stuff that, I guess, that you guys noticed that raised concern?
For high infrastructure or high intensity infrastructure, how we define that I think there's some things that I think came out of that, like the footprint of the facility doesn't necessarily scale one-to-one to how much energy it is, and so we might wanna pull that out.
Yeah, you're right, that was a good takeaway from that, like, we were kinda thinking how we did it with the small businesses, or the home-based businesses, where we went off a tiered system, where if you meet 4 out of 9 things, you are a home-based business. But what she was saying is the cleanest way is straight up to look at energy draw, and if you're above this, then you're it.
Was that, was it 10 kilowatts or mega? It wasn't megawatts,
8 to 10.
8 kilowatts or?
Oh, it must have been more than that.
I don't know.
10
I'm not an
kilowatts is not a
electrician.
lot.
Gigawatts.
So the Saline Township one was gigawatts, 1.4 gigawatts.
Oh, megawatts, so I think it's like anything above 2,000 megawatts was, I think.
I have Selene at, oh no, you're right, sorry.
But yeah, I think you're right, anything above 2,000 megawatts, they were like, we're talking significant levels of energy draw.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be interesting to do, maybe we put as like a side note though, we should do a comparable of that energy draw versus like just manufacturing. Because you don't, at the end of the day, and if they're similar, then we have to get more, I think we have to get more nuanced. Cause you don't wanna have like, you need double, triple soundproofing for the manufacturing facility. You do want that for the hyperscale data center. So,
When you talk jobs, the Saline will have typically, and I just read this today, about 40 full-time jobs.
yeah.
That's it. That's the job creation after construction.
There was a comment on that she made, that you can look at a plan and determine how many jobs there will be based on how many parking spots are
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
planned.
was interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I think that's well known, I mean, there's definitely a short-term, incentive for. One thing I didn't realize, and is that a lot of the labor unions are, there's a lot of like lobbying at the state level for these incentive packages from like the Michigan Electrical Union, the Michigan Plumbers Union, cause it's just huge contracts for them,
Yep.
which I think she touched on.
Yep.
Okay, any other things before we move on that some of that does significantly change how we are organizing our ordinance though, so. We literally have to, and again, like, people have asked us for, at this point, like, we have the general public emailing us, asking us for like our ordinance. We are trying to convey like, anything we produce has literally been in you guys' packet, so like, we encourage people to go through past meetings. But like, we don't have an ordinance with a header at the top saying like, data center ordinance, like, we don't, that hasn't been created. Like, we don't even have a draft form of that. We have like basically what I would consider like loose notes at this point.
So I got harassed by a couple neighbors,
Great.
who- not lowercase harassed, but I got grilled as to what, data center development was coming to bat. And so they just assumed because we had the meeting, that something was coming. I tried to reassure them that nothing yet.
Yeah, it's just, it's tough with like the PR aspect of that, cause like what people always say is what they want from their government is for their government to be proactive, not reactionary, and then like you try to implement that and people are like, what in the world are you doing, you know, and I understand, it's a sensitive topic, like, we're trying to be sensitive about it, but we're trying to convey, like, we also have a job to do and we're gonna do it. And it is taking up time in all of our staff emails at this point, which is unfortunate, cause we have a day job. And it's not,
Need AI to
it's,
auto respond.
yeah, that'd be beautiful. Okay, alright, well, that kinda gives us some marching orders. I don't wanna dwell on the topic. I know you guys like wanna see more. I'll have more to say about like a transition plan and the report from planner, but I want you guys to know, like, I'm gonna try to make this as smooth as possible with like getting this teed up for whoever comes next.
Well, you're not escaping it. Clinton County has talked about this as well.
Oh, I know. Yeah, unfortunately, it's the main thing in my industry.
And I think if the climate keeps going like it is, water's gonna be the biggest problem.
100%.
I mean, look out west at Hoover Dam, I was reading it yesterday, that's at the lowest level it's ever been. And if it keeps going down, it may reduce their capacity to create electricity from the dam.
Well, and I think that's why a lot of the concerns around this land use are valid. I think that people, though, need to also realize that the police power of zoning, and land use authority is derived from the state and is granted to the local units by the state. And as we know with, utility, solar and wind, at any time the state can come in and remove that, authority or the local control. So really, it's just unfortunate, cause I think the public has a lot of valid concerns and they tend to like come to these meetings and act like Bath Township Board of Trustees is like, has full autonomy. And they don't, they're working within a structure that's set by their state government. They really need to be at the state house talking to their state leadership about this, if those are their concerns.
Yep.
So not to put it all on the
Why do you
state.
think the state delegated it to the local?
And I'm sure if they have enough, if they have a hard enough time, you know, they'll do what they did with the utility, but, you know, that's a unknown future.
Correct.
So what is your approach on writing the, I guess, the parameters for high-intensity use areas?
Well, I think we're gonna remove the sound and create its own sound ordinance within the zoning. We will continue to organize the rest of this land use under, if you go in our ordinance, I think it's like Article 19, special use. And then you'll see there will be like, under that, there are subsections that address other kind of high-profile special uses. Gun ranges, manufacturing, and this will be within that. And, that's kind of how we'll organize it, and there will be, just like our normal ordinances, there will be a purpose, there will be an intent, there will be definitions, and then there will be development standards.
Do we have a standalone light ordinance, or is that?
We do have a standalone light ordinance, but then there are, again, within those, kind of special uses, I guess. There are like additional lighting for some of them, cause obviously like a gun range is gonna have special lighting concerns that your residential lighting won't cover.
One question, if we create a standalone noise ordinance that's oriented towards, say, an industrial development, does that undercut the authority of noise elements built within, say, special use permits? I'm just like, if we
No, I
don't talk
I don't
about
think so, but I
kennels,
think
like-
you're right, like, we'll have to pay, I mean, that's always the difficulty when you're writing ordinances and you're trying to, like, not treat something, as you would treat residential in a zoning district. Then you have to go back through the entire ordinance and make sure it flows and works together uniformly. That's the hard thing about drafting an ordinance. And we'll have to, like, on that point, make sure that we're not somehow undermining the regulatory, noise compliance ordinance. And we might even have to go into that regulatory one and build a carve-out citing this one, if it relates to this land use or whatever. So it will be a little messy, there's gonna be a bunch of those like underlined blue references where it's like, click on here for more about this. But yeah, that's the plan for now in terms of organization of
Yeah, so
ordinances.
how is the energy use gonna fit in there, such as water and electricity then?
What do you mean gonna fit in?
Is it going, are you gonna address like certain amounts of usage, like she called out, you know?
Yeah, so we'll have to define, I think if the feedback I was assuming, I guess, and let me know if I'm wrong here, is from her class and what we just talked about, is the cleanest way to define a high-intensity infrastructure use is to go by the, megawatts alone. So we have to do some research on what that looks like, cause I don't know what a medium-sized manufacturing plant megawattage is. I wanna be above that number, but I don't wanna get too far above it where now like a mini hyperscale data center sneaks in, you know? But yeah, we'll define it by strictly that. When it comes to water usage, according to her, and like what we've seen is we just don't even address that as, in terms of its definition. We will obviously address water and development standards. Water usage will be a subsection of development standards.
Well, maybe water usage should be a subsection of any development issue. Maybe it's, whether it's golf courses or a foundry or a data center.
I think if you're gonna do that, then you should do what you do with, and, you know, maybe we start building out these subsections, and the subsection just gets so wordy and long, it's like, okay, well, let's go ahead and put that, cause the sound section will go in special provisions, Article 15, if the water usage is getting so wordy and long that it maybe warrants its own article, you just will put it up there.
And I'm not sure that you can regulate that at the township level anyway.
Well, you definitely could, I think, build standards into, the studies that have to be provided on the front end to prove that it's feasible.
Those still
But in
get
terms of,
implemented by the state too.
but yeah, in terms of permitting the well itself, that's not something that we have the authority for at the
Right.
local
It
level.
goes through the county and then to the state.
But we do have the ability to review and we have the ability to, create safeguards against unforeseen externalities such as bonding for, land use drying up surrounding wells.
Yeah, and again, I think that would be addressed at the state level still.
Be amazing if you brought all what the state does versus local.
May have to have a lawsuit to get them involved,
Oh, great.
you know.
Well, and obviously too, like we'll run, I think the goal would be to get the framework of an ordinance together and then run it through legal. Like early on
Yeah,
in the
just
framework's
not-
development, that way they could say, legal could say like, no, this is not you guys. And then we know before we spend too much time on it.
Yeah, I'm just not sure there's any teeth there.
But, I mean, even if there's not teeth, there's still, it still serves a purpose, right? So it's signaling to developers that we're aggressive on this.
Yeah. And they could always call us on it and take us to court.
But that takes money on their part, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Well-
seem to have for the most part.
They do, yeah.
No, they do, but it also, I think, does create, I mean, what, you gotta think, I guess, my view is always like trying to get in the minds of these actors within the private sector. The private sector likes known variables. And if you do indicate, to Jason's point, you know, hey, these are the known variables, this is how you're gonna play here, and if they don't like that, I mean, yeah, if that's the spot that they determine, no, it absolutely has to go here, they'll fight on it, you know, till the end, I'm sure. But if there's maybe 4 other spots that look good and that, those
Right.
aren't in play, then, you know, water likes the path of least resistance. Water in this case being a major development.
So does that mean that the other, say, unzoned townships in our area are much more susceptible to these types of projects than?
Smaller.
I would say smaller unzoned townships are highly susceptible, and that's not just because I'm a planner, I have a vested interest in my industry being valid and needed, but yeah, I mean, but also the caveat to that is, as you talked about in the class, is like, you want fiber in the ground and you want transmission lines close with transmission terminals, you know, and
Which-
some smaller township might not have those, so then it's like, there's this balance.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, that gets to one question. I mean, do we have a fiber trunk line?
Well, that's what was that was interesting out of the class. I believe there's one in 69,
Yeah.
That's what
it's
I've
across the
always
street,
heard.
Right?
but she said the University of Michigan has been like trying to find more and more documents on the subject and getting much pushback, I guess, from the private sector. So I thought that was interesting.
So, I mean, this came up during COVID, when we were looking at broadband
Yeah.
expansion in both township as well as the county level. And I think there was some information brought to bear as to where some of those trunk lines, like the merit lines, were. So I'm under the impression, but I could be.
Well, I think you
completely
said
wrong.
at the meeting, I've always been under the impression too, even when I worked up in the UP, we talked about this a lot, cause it was the same thing, like when I got here, that was like the item of the day was the, fiber. And when I was working in the UP, they got a ton of money to run one up to, Michigan Tech.
Right.
Because they do use the universities as like
The hubs.
destination spots on the journey to establish these.
So, I mean, if we were to know that and then cross-reference that with where there's high
Highways.
transmission lines as well as, you know, acreage, you know, we could do kind of an analysis of where
What's your
likely
likelihood?
developments may occur. And there may not be any locations that would scale to the size of a hyper center.
One, I think obviously, like, if the planning commission and board are not in BAP, but just anywhere are, you know, seeking for this land use to come to town, you know, you'd be looking to zone this in your larger swath areas if you're seeking it not to come to town, or you're seeking like smaller versions of it, like what we have at BSNA, like a kind of a lo-fi data center, if that's even such a thing, but like, then you zone it in your smaller parcel sizes, and de-development's been the district that we've talked about here. Which I think plays more to that, we're not saying it, you know, you would have more of that like mom and pop data center, a hyperscale one would be harder in de-development. But of course, like, you know, that's always a choice, that's a choice point for policymakers.
Just one point of clarification on that. BASF is more of, it's just a server with databases on
Yeah.
it versus processing.
Yeah, it's not the
AI
generative
data
AI.
And huge processors, there's a, I think. a
Huge
big
difference. Yeah, they're like totally different land. And that's what I was saying, we almost should probably explicitly say that
Yeah.
early on in this section. Like maybe in the purpose or maybe in the about section, I don't know. Okay.
Anything else on that?
Oh yeah, the last thing I would say though too on that, to wrap up that, talk about highways versus transmission lines versus fiber. Another thing that I thought was really interesting, I don't know if you guys caught this, was the energy capacity of the state of Michigan.
Yep.
So that kind of plays into like the risk analysis of hyperscale data centers too. I mean, the grid itself in our state, I mean, and you can draw from other areas of MISO, so it's not exact one-to-one comparisons. Like we could be importing power from other places in the MISO grid, which is 2 Canadian provinces and then goes all the way down to Louisiana, if you're not familiar with our MISO section.
Yep.
But in the state alone, you probably only have like 4 hyperscale. What'd you say, 4 to 6, and then you're like maxed out.
Yep.
With the current production within the state, right?
Current production. And I know the state's making some efforts to bring back online that one nuclear plant, that would obviously up production.
But Sandlin's not going to full production right off the bat, right? So they're
That's
gonna-
true.
So,
When I know at the federal level, they're also trying to deregulate, micro scale nuclear, so on-site nuclear.
Yep. Yes, they
So
are.
these are all things that are much bigger than Bath Township, but could have local effects.
We need a nuclear plant here.
Okay, well, thanks, guys, before I leave, I guess it's my goal to get the loose framework established. I've got a couple weeks, so.
Great, thank you. All right, you wanna move on, Miles, to the CIP?
That'd be great. Alright, we kinda talked about this a lot last time, I told Karen, just so she had a heads up too, kinda where the feedback was that was getting levied last time. I don't know, I feel, obviously, the feedback, and prior to accepting a different position, it was my intention to, like, as soon as this budget process, which does seem like at this point it's probably delayed. I mean, it still has to get done, and Karen could speak to that more than me, like, before the calendar year, but, you know, there's a lot of variables, as I'm sure everyone here is aware, that are impacting the budget process right now. Those variables also have impacts on the CIP process, I'm sure, and the potential adoption of one of these CIPs. Getting told no by the voters for general funds has a direct correlation to monies available for capital improvement projects, especially ones that have been determined to be, discretionary. So, that's kinda, I guess, the background of this conversation. But from the staff side, I mean, there's a full acknowledgement that the CIP process needs to be revamped. We're, I guess, on our front, and I don't know, Chair, you want Karen to say something, but like, I think it's the intention to revamp the process. At this point, we're in the 8th month of the year, and the budget needs to be done in like 2 months, so,
My budget's due to the board on September 1st.
yeah.
So,
So, that's kinda where it's at.
So what's the desire of the planning commission?
I wasn't here at your last meeting, but in reading through these things, the concern I've got, all these estimates are 3, 4 years old.
That got brought up at the last meeting, and we talked about, I was like, well, you know, that's true, that's valid. Like, do you want me to reach out to the Department of Public Works? Cause all of these projects are basically coming out of that department at this point. I was like, do you want me to get updated estimates? And the feedback I believe I got was like, well, it's kinda not worth it, like, we know where these projects are at. Last year, when we went to score, you guys just maintained the scores from the previous year, which you guys can do again, but yeah, it was determined like, even with updated pricing, that doesn't change all the variables
Of our scoring, not much.
of your scoring.
Right.
No. It would make a difference to the board, I would think, because they're gonna wanna know, instead of costing 55,000 for the multi-court, is it gonna cost that or 75? Plus on that one there, I don't know if anybody else caught it, that did not include excavation for that project. So that 55,000 or 54,173 cost estimate is not correct. I don't know what the excavation is gonna cost, but there'll be something for that added onto that.
I think they were gonna do some of that themselves, weren't they? Does anybody remember that?
Well, he might be able to, that's true.
Some of it, at least the
Yeah.
prep. Alright, so Chair, I guess my question is, would you like to go through the scoring process for these? Or do you guys wanna do what you did last year and, make a motion based upon the scores of last year, or some other option?
Personally, my position would be that there's really no sense in spending a lot of time on this, or, you know, either on our part or the staff's part, because I don't see any of these projects coming to fruition because we don't have any money to spend. So, I don't know how everybody else on the planning commission feels, but, that would be my personal position.
shall I back that up
Absolutely.
with
do
Michigan
whatever you would
statute
like.
language on the Planning and Enabling Act?
Yeah, do whatever you would like, Mr. Almagy.
So, I mean, you know, 125.3865 on the capital improvement plan from the Michigan Planning and Enabling Act, it says the capital, I need my reading glasses. The capital improvements program shall show those public structures, these are distance glasses.
Okay,
I don't have bifocals.
okay.
I mean, I guess I could maybe turn them up. The capital improvements program shall show those public structures and improvements in the general order of their priority, that in the commission's judgment will be needed and desirable and can be undertaken within the ensuing 6-year period. I mean, I know struggling with the millage and Headley rollback is not necessarily, I mean, we still have a budget, right? And we're still operating. And so I don't know we don't have a great track record of funding the plans.
Which is where some of the frustration has been.
And the one thing I wonder is if, there's a lot of conversation about what will happen if the community doesn't approve a millage increase? And there's vague statements about services will have to be cut. The community will not be the same community that we've lived in. It might be of use for this body, the planning commission, to say, as a statement of solidarity with the board, in our estimation, we don't feel comfortable moving forward or prioritizing any of the capital improvement plans, given the current budget situation of the township. That can go a couple different ways. I don't know if that doesn't meet the intent of a capital improvement plan, but it does reflect the reality of what is going on in our township. Now,
It's your recommendation to make. You can make it, this is just a form we've done in the past. You can make it whatever.
I'm just brainstorming like some of our options, because I don't think any of us are comfortable with, you know, doing an actual scoring of, you know, 3 to 5-year-old projects that might be completely off base in terms of, one,
I think
what
it's
their
fully valid.
cost structure, you know, costs will be, as well as the relevancy to, you know, the current needs of the community.
It's fully valid.
What's that?
It's fully valid.
So, that's my contribution to this.
Thank you.
I think my scores would probably be, as they were before, pretty close as they were before.
Well, Jason, were you saying that we just do nothing? Was that what I was
Well,
hearing?
there's two components, right? So there's the scoring, right? And then there's whatever, the document that we wrote last time where we made some statements about the pour in place.
Maybe,
right?
we talked a little bit before the meeting, could I maybe just explain, just so you guys recall, because I mean, it was a year ago. But, so the typical process for how this plays out was tonight is the scoring night. So again, that can take the form of you guys going through project by project, that can take the form of adopting the scores from last year, that can take the form of not scoring. All that's valid. Then, the planning commission's gonna take, or the planning department will take whatever feedback we get from you guys tonight, and we're gonna put it in this report that gets drafted. The template's already produced. A part of you guys' report last year was talking about your frustration with the project, or with the process, and you made comments about the pour in place and ways to mitigate some of the harm that was being done to that project. But that report will come back to you at your next meeting, and you guys will get a chance to review the report, make edits, or recommend the report be moved on to the board. And the intention's always been to get that report to the board in the same month they're receiving the budget. That way they kinda got the CIP report from you guys, and they got a budget from Karen, and the Cal makes the board decisions.
If we decided to do nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and then came across a grant that required a CIP process, could we still initiate that process after the fact if we needed it for something down the road?
I don't see that being a problem. because the projects are still these 4 projects are still gonna be in the report. You guys just deferred your scoring of it and deferred moving forward with a recommendation for the projects. That doesn't mean they weren't projects on a shelf ready to go if money came available.
Okay.
I don't think the two preclude each other.
Then my feeling would be to do nothing. I think our time is better spent on other discussions this evening.
May I offer an in-between road that preserves that we have done a capital improvement plan while also doing nothing? We adjust the scoring matrix to include a score of, it is in our estimation that this project will not be funded in the next 6 fiscal years. And then it gets a score of 0, or, you know, that way, all the projects are scored, they reflect reality, we complete a capital improvements plan. It makes, you know, I mean, you're the audience, right, as a board member, so is that useful to you or is that not useful to you?
I think the end result would be the same, but I think it would be, is more formal perhaps?
Completion of a project,
Yeah.
a process.
Okay, well, we can do that, for all 4 projects. And that'll change up, I have a graph actually, and we'll just change up how the graph will be displayed, do I have it up? I thought I had it pulled up. Oh, yeah, you have it. Yeah, go for it.
Well, there's 2 projects, Miles, that I personally feel we should address, and we've talked this at the board. One is that upscale outhouse that
Yeah.
we suggested that somebody at least pursue the idea of actually building bathrooms, because there is sewer right there in the road, as opposed to doing an outhouse, and we suggested that 2 years ago and last year as well, nothing was done about
Yeah,
it.
DPW didn't take action on that suggestion.
At least they could have explored that as a possibility, and I think, and reported some,
Yeah.
well, cost estimate or some valid, was it worth pursuing or not? And the other is, if you'd call up the Keb's drawing of the Wishwasher Park drainage, do you still have that available?
Yeah, I can, but why I pull that up, this is the scoring from last year, to Commissioner
Yeah.
Almaridge's point.
Absolutely.
We could make a new tab on it that says like,
Not scored, unable to score.
unable to score due to lack of confidence in funding.
Yep, I think
And
that's,
just
I
zero out the scores and put a check.
think that's a good thing to address.
You
Okay.
You could include the scores from the last time, maybe?
We would,
Well, yeah,
what
they
I'm
would
hearing
be-
is we wouldn't, they'd be zeroed out. And
Okay.
the box would be checked for unable to score due to lack of confidence in funding.
The board could lean on the prior year's scoring if they really were in a jam for wanting to prioritize.
Prioritize.
Or
those.
if a grant came by, you could say, hey, it's still in our plan, we just didn't know this money would be available, and now, you know,
Unscored it
we're
last
ready to
year.
move forward.
Because if a grant came available, it would probably be for a specific project.
Yeah, or the DPW would come across something, they'd have a project in mind. But usually grants are for specific things, it's like access to public waters grant, that's not gonna be for the poor in place, you know, that's gonna be for the kayak launch.
Right, correct.
Alright, I'm trying to find the drawings here. Alright, here we go, it's a big sheet.
Thank you.
Alright, here, I'm gonna turn that off. Okay. So this is the parking lot, which shows kind of the
Right.
poor in place area, the proposed parking lot improvement.
A number of us have been down there and looked at that, and Karen, you're here, this is an issue that's been ongoing with the planning commission. Is there any reason that drainage issue could not be addressed by the DPW?
I believe we already did. I actually just texted Ben Zeeb, the director of DPW, to ask. It's my understanding that they had planned to take our equipment down there and rework some of that, particularly this triangle
Where the,
area, to rework the water flow.
So as of yesterday, nothing has been done. The reason I know this is I gave a tour to a colleague of
Okay.
Bath, and one of the places I stopped was Westchester Park, and there was
Okay.
standing water there. I think, as we
Go ahead.
looked at it, me being a psychologist and not an engineer, the easiest fix would be, there is an entrance, that triangle is parking spaces right now. And there is a curb, that separates those parking spaces, but there's a cut in the curb that leads
Okay.
directly to the memorial bricks,
Okay,
where folks like, Joe Benzie has a brick, that's all, covered with silt.
I think these are the bricks on this.
Yep.
And
Yep, that's
this is
correct.
where that
That's
cut,
that
you can
cut.
see that cut. It's hard to see, but it's these little lines.
Again, as a non-engineer, it seems like you could just throw some cement right there, solve the issue.
Just
Or push the issue somewhere else, right?
put
That's what you do.
essentially temporary curb
Yeah.
in between that place, which wouldn't totally decrease, but would slow the water flow
Right.
into that area. Or
well,
reroute it in a different way.
It's gonna
more
land,
of
yeah, it
it
would land
probably.
south.
the
It
water's
would
gonna
just
go somewhere.
flow, it would just
Yeah.
flow south, cause that's downhill.
But knowing how government works, I mean, it's probably an ADA problem if you fill in that.
Block it off, yeah.
Yeah, could be.
You just have to route access around to the north. But yeah, there probably would have to be additional concrete work done to the north to get people onto the play structure.
Yeah,
But I think the history of this was that one of the rationales for paving the parking lot was because of that water flow for that particular spot, and that was a comment that the planning commission had last year. And I think year prior to that. Actually, yeah.
It definitely came up last year, cause I remember talking about it at the meeting.
That it shouldn't be paved because it would be too much runoff?
No, about the temporary measure.
Oh,
In-
the temporary measure,
in
yeah, I do remember
our
that.
wisdom of impending budget crises, we were being good stewards of the capital improvement plan by finding less costly ways of addressing. But again,
no, I did, honestly believe that we had reworked some of that, from Ben, so I just will wait for, follow-up, from him, and I can report that back to you all, but, I did believe we addressed that. And maybe not, to the extent that you all were expecting, but I will provide an answer.
Alright, okay,
thank you.
oh, sorry, I wasn't trying to cut you off, Karen, too, if you weren't done. I have a bad habit of that, is there any, okay, so I think I've got a game plan for scoring. It sounds like everyone's on the same page. Chair, do you wanna take a vote on that, or how do you wanna do that?
Yeah, we might as well take a vote for it, cause gotta go to the board of trustees, so.
Okay, and then after that, I have a follow-up question too.
So,
Should-
is there any further discussion? Is everybody ready to vote?
shall I do a motion?
Yeah, absolutely.
So move to score the 4 proposed capital improvement plan projects as not likely to be funded in the next 6 years, thereby deferring other scoring of those projects, thereby completing the 2026, 27 capital improvement plan for
Planning Commission review.
planning commission review.
A second.
Is there a second? Got it. Okay. Anyone have any further discussion? No, hearing none. Miles, you wanna take a roll call?
Yeah, I'll do a roll call. I don't have anything to write on, cause I gave my packet, but, trustee Hagerman,
Yes,
Commissioner Coulter,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baker,
Yes,
Commissioner Wright,
Yes. Greener.
Commissioner Crainer,
Yes,
Commissioner Almaridge
Yes.
and Commissioner Sabri.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's
I like it better
unanimous.
when I have my sheet.
That one's easy, Miles, it's unanimous.
Alright.
As long as we're talking about money and lack of money and what money can be spent for, I don't know what the board voted to put on the November ballot, but I think the key thing in the comments that I heard before the August ballot was, we have no idea what this money is gonna be used for. But somebody said that if we don't, it doesn't get passed this time, things are gonna have to be cut. We need to let the public know what that cut is gonna be, and if it passes, what the money is gonna be used for, because they don't know.
I was gonna bring this up during board member comments.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, that'd probably be a good time to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably board member comments.
Wait, Chair, I have
Yep.
one more thing on this point, just for staff.
Yep.
I don't need to vote on this item tonight, but just to give us direction. So in previous years, you guys have had some comments that you've, will be at the end of the report that you'll see next time, and ultimately take a vote on at that time on those comments. But are there any additional comments that this body would like to see in the report? Kind of comments from you guys collectively to the board
You're talking about in regard to the CIP.
in regard to the
process.
CIP process?
The process itself, one thing I noted, there's no dates on those applications unless it happens to be a cost estimate supplied by an outside vendor. They put the date on their cost estimate. Every one of those submittals should be dated at the time they're submitted. Even in '23, they weren't dated, they aren't dated in '26 either. So we've got documents floating out there, and we have no idea when they were prepared.
Okay.
So we gotta get stuff dated.
That's more like an internal comment
Yeah.
from me, but
Yeah.
valid. Any comments for the board as a part of these projects? Should we bring the additional comment about shoring up the water issue from last year? Same comment
Same comment.
for Wiswasser Park?
Yeah.
Same comment?
Yep.
I still think the projects are valid and good. And so,
Yeah, they're all cool projects.
Yeah.
I think one thing I'd like to see in writing is a comment about if we're going to adjust the plan, how, the process.
Process, okay.
And it sounds like township administration is gonna be a part of, you know, that. We don't wait until the 8th month,
No,
as we have every year,
it needs to be early on in the year.
that
So
that we
first couple
commit
months of
to
the
it,
year.
perhaps maybe in January, or, I don't know, when things cool
That was our
down.
intent.
Okay.
Would you like a comment speaking to this body's willingness to engage in that process?
I mean, I would say, like, we are eager to start in January collaborating with the township administration board and adjusting this so that we have a process that is amenable to all parties.
That's a perfect comment. Do you want that included?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is the planning, I don't need a vote again, I just need consensus. Is
Yes.
that- Okay. Alright, great.
Anything else?
That's all I need, Chair.
Okay, let's move on to new business and the comp plan.
Okay. Alright, this is the bulk of the packet, as I'm sure everyone's aware, there's a lot of pages. The copy that's in your packet tonight is this is kind of the full plan. This is appendix, this is plan, this is, documents that are produced that would be used by staff and, provided by, Giffords Webster as the plan implementation occurs over the years. So ultimately, I mean, it's worth pointing out that kind of the plan itself from page 1 to, let me get my other little way to view stuff up, so I can go through pages faster. From page 1 to about page '63, that represents kind of the flip book part of the plan. Once you get past page 63, this becomes again, it will be included and it can still flip or it can be scrolled through. But this is more, stuff that will be available to the public to view, but these are documents that usually the planning department will be utilizing to ensure items within the plan are getting moved forward. And then following that, these documents give the public a sense of how we're tracking success. And typically, these themselves don't always get marked up and used, but this information gets put in the planning department, division report that you guys kind of see at the end of the year. This would be a new way of doing that. And then, of course, is the appendix, which is vast. And again, I think there was some really interesting stuff in here actually about Bath and just data on the township. There's some interesting data I was looking at on the male to female ratio in certain age groups was really surprising. There's of course stuff that still needs to be worked on in this. We were on the phone with Rose, our main contact today, for example, about this graph. If you remember, they took this is from the US Census, and it's a part of the US Census called, On the Map. And the original one that was in this plan was a screenshot, and it was really hard to read, so then they created their own, so it would be more readable, but they got the colors backwards. The blue circle is supposed to be the small one, and the green circle is supposed to be the big one.
Yeah.
It's like, whatever, mistakes happen, they got it backwards, but we let her know by tomorrow, the copy that, pending action tonight from you all, the copy that Karen will get tomorrow, will have the circle switched. So, there's some dumb stuff in there, but I don't know.
We all make mistakes.
That's not a mistake, I'm sorry. That's incompetence.
Okay.
So, but, also it's worth pointing out that, their GIS person, this is what they're saying, so don't kill the messenger. It had to be involved in the removal of the term urban service boundary because of how Canva works and GIS works and the legends are produced. So again, we know about that, that's something that should be included in the copy that goes to the board.
Since you got that page 26 up,
Okay,
zoom in on the bottom one,
okay,
the bottom map.
I'm zooming,
Okay. At the top of that, see there, whoops, you got right below the top red line. See there's 5 lots built right there on the south side of Club Course? We need to add the other 9 lots that are already there, and then 6 homes are built already.
yeah, that's just them working off of old parcel maps, that's not even necessarily their fault. Those probably aren't mapped on the data set they have.
Could be, yeah.
I don't think that has any material effect though on this plan or how this plan's
No.
administrated. And again, I'm sure there's a million in the weeds things.
Well, I imagine there is, yeah.
Some other just high level stuff to point out, they did redo the new cover. I do like this cover better. Again, this is subjective and I'm sure everyone has lots of opinions. But overall, I thought, if you guys remember what the other cover looked like, I think this looks better.
I think that's
I
better.
agree.
Oh, not very big. Come on,
I feel like you have to,
seriously.
I
A
totally,
non-existent
Berry
business?
Bagels is not the right choice for that
Yeah, that's
slice
where it's
of
not on.
photo.
it is a nice looking building.
It is, but
True.
put Dunkin' on it.
Alright, we wanna move it.
Marijuana facility.
Oh, yeah.
I actually think the marijuana facility would be good, cause they have some cool wall art, but, so we can adjust that a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay.
Or just
Alright,
take the name off.
strong feelings about
Or
it.
blur.
Or just
Blur.
gray over, just, remove the Berry Bagels
No
from the
need at all,
picture.
yeah.
I'd say,
So just,
It's funny,
nothing.
because it's nice building, nice view.
I said this was gonna happen before this meeting, and it did
Just
happen.
remove the name.
Just take the name off it, yeah. They're not advertising for anybody.
Karen laughs too.
Mark has lost all of his faith in Barry's Bagels to come to market.
It's not faith, it's a contract they can't.
Yeah.
No, I
it's a
totally get it.
Lawsuit that could be won real easy.
This is how we did the in honor of Al Rosenkrantz, cause we didn't exactly know how to format that, but we thought this was the way, so, just so you guys know. I thought that was a really good catch, and I would be like remiss if, so thanks to whoever called that out last time, that was one of you guys. I don't know, Chair, how do you wanna do it? So with that, I guess if you read the memo from Giffords, kind of the thing that, staff and Giffords are hoping to see tonight is not a recommendation for adoption, not saying every edit hasn't been made, but the plan is in enough of a final draft state that it's ready for distribution. We're seeking that this body make a recommendation to the board for the 65-day distribution period. What that would entail would be, I will quickly in the next 24 hours get a copy to Karen, hopefully with a couple of those edits I already mentioned made. Karen will get it in her packet on Monday night, the board will recommend the distribution, and then Tuesday morning, I will send it out to every municipality that touches us, which is a lot. And then we're in the corner of the county, so unfortunate for us. And then 65 days will start. And at the conclusion of that period, this plan would come back before you guys with comments from Giffords, organized, and a final round of edits. And that can go multiple meetings, we'll have time for multiple meetings at that point, cause we're a little bit ahead of the game here. But we're hoping for an adoption to the board recommendation before the end of the calendar year. Remembering that end of January is our deadline.
So how do we wanna proceed on this?
Move to approve distribution, 65-day distribution of the current draft of the comprehensive plan.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Anyone who want, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I said support it, yes?
Yeah,
I support it too.
yeah, thank you. Does anyone have any further discussion that they wanna entertain? Okay, hearing none, I guess we'll do another roll call, Miles.
Okay, great. Trustee Aggerman,
Yes.
Commissioner Coulter,
Yes?
Vice Chair Baker,
Yes.
Chair Reich,
Yes,
Commissioner Crainer,
Yes.
Commissioner Almarigi,
Yes.
Commissioner Severie.
Yes,
thank you. Okay. I think you have your marching orders there, Miles.
Yes, and I will, and Commissioner Severie did provide me a marked up, sheet to provide the consultants, which is always valid. You guys can jump on that little, portal that they set up for you guys and always make markups at any time. That's still operational.
Yeah, we can keep making edits until we actually
All the way
finalize the
through.
plan, correct?
All the way through, and again, I mean, I would always recommend the easiest way is just a marked up copy, either digital or printed. Cause then we can always, the nice thing about doing it that way is we can always scan those, send it to the consultant, and then we have like a paper trail of like we told you about this.
Yep, good point. Okay, I guess we're ready for your report, Miles.
Okay, I'm scrolling, just,
Thank you.
so many pages. Alright, I'm just gonna grab the thing. Oh my god. No one can say we didn't try. Okay. Alright, guys, I, obviously, like, I'll just leave with it. Madison's got an announcement too. Sorry, they already got the thing, so I'll just lead. Yeah, obviously, I accepted a position with the county. Karen knows, like, just how conflicted I am about the whole thing. Like, I love working here. I love the staff here. You guys are the best. It's bittersweet. I'm glad that I'm still living in Bath. I'm gonna continue to live in Bath. So I'll still be around. I'm going to the county, so at least that's nice. I still get to feel like I'm in the area. I hope I'll work with all you guys in the future. I don't know what else to say. So, my last day's the 27th. I was talking to Karen, kind of, they've got my job posted. They're actively seeking somebody to fill it. I don't know her exact timeline. My first day at the county will be the 31st, so I'm not like taking off a ton of time or anything like that. I'm working here basically till the very end. Kind of the next couple weeks for me is just trying to put the finishing touches on the items that are in process, and then creating kind of a plan for those items I won't be able to. And then just reaching out to people and saying like, hey, dude, like, I'm not your point of contact anymore. So, yeah. Madison's got an announcement.
I got into law school. Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, so I made a lot of jokes when I first started here about going from U of M, you know, boo, go to my bad MSU, and now I'm going there. So it's kind of funny how it works out, but yeah, starting MSU in 2 weeks. So,
Congratulations.
Congratulations, that's great.
thanks.
Do you want to talk about the area of law that you're, cause it's kinda interesting.
Sure. I studied earth and environmental science in my undergrad, so I knew I kind of wanted to do something like that for law school. So I'm looking at environmental legislation and then kind of like adjacent to that, like animal welfare law. So that specifically is what I am pretty interested in right now.
So will you still be here for a while or not?
I'll still be here throughout law school. I'm planning on keeping this job and just
Okay.
have it on my resume, but I'll definitely be going down in hours. So
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I'll be here at these meetings anymore or anything, but I'll work about like 8 to 10 hours during the week.
That's great.
So,
There's a program at MSU called Environmental Science and Public Policy. It's a PhD dual enrollment program that you might want to look into in addition to
should I
your.
get my PhD and JD at the same
You
time?
should,
And keep working for us.
I'll keep JD, that's good enough for me.
I mean, you could look into it. I mean, it might be a lot of like cross, like one class counts for both, you know, and
Yeah,
it's not as
sometimes.
much.
Gosh, you guys want me to be a PhD?
Why not?
We have every faith in you, Madison.
Yeah, municipal law is not off the table, just saying, kind of.
Yeah, well, I think that you know, like, obviously, there's a lot of crossover there, and, Fahey Schultz is local, and they seem really cool.
Yeah, Fahey Schultz, our legal team, they hired almost like strictly from MSU Law School, so who knows?
Yeah,
congratulations.
Yes.
I think that's a great opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad Madison is staying on, that helps with the transition process as well. Charlie will still be here through the transition process, so that helps. I know like when I got hired here, Fee was here, and it's like, obviously, there was a lot to work through when I first got hired in late 21, but having Fee just to like show me where stuff was on the shared drive is like huge.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
So,
Yep,
Well, congratulations, Miles.
yeah.
Yes.
And we're happy we didn't have to fire a planner.
yeah, I'm also happy not to be fired.
So, I mean,
Yeah, that's true, there's still time, yeah. Could be fired at any moment for any reason.
you gotta be a little passive aggressive here. Have fun up in the county.
We'll see, that, I know, the county's obviously got some stuff they're working through, so we'll see.
Yeah, they sure do. I think it's a real challenge.
At least they didn't dissolve their planning authority.
Yeah, and as I think a lot of people here, and I know that was even talked about the board at one point, the counties, seems like to me, they have, cause I probably wouldn't have taken the position if I didn't feel this way, but it seems like to me they've charted a path. And I think in the era of data centers too, zoning, it was all, I mean, in my time here, data centers are just the third iteration of like this really big like crisis thing, cause when I first got hired here, what was it? It was marijuana, right? That was the thing of the day, everyone was freaking out about.
Yep,
Then it was utility solar, you know, that was, everyone's freaking out, that was the thing of the day. Today's thing is data centers. I think because of these land use types that keep coming up in the media, I think people at the local level are starting to recognize the tool set that zoning is, and it's becoming more prominent, and so when that discussion happened at the county, they're like, how are we gonna protect ourselves? And so, on one hand, I guess it feels good to be in an industry that people care about, and on the other hand, I hope that the industry can remain, rooted in fact, in logic, and like just good policy making and not like hyperbolic, like culture war politics.
Good luck.
Yeah, hoping for the best.
Well, let's pull the attention back to you. So you mentioned that this is bittersweet. So
Yeah.
I think one thing that's, I'll speak on the behalf of all of us, like,
go for it.
you know, you're an excellent planner. I mean, you're beyond excellent. The county, I gave us fair warning at whatever meeting when a bunch of them came up here. And it was like, he's the best planner in the county. Like, and so, you know, for us, we're a small community, right? You know, And, you know, just like we're proud of our interns landing great positions.
They're killing it.
I would say that we're proud of you for landing a county level position. And, you know, now, you know, I think saying we're proud is a little bit condescending. I mean, frankly, I
I
think we're
appreciate it.
lucky to have you for how long we had you. And providing leadership to us, persevering through at least my irritatingness.
Definitely not.
But, you know, we as a township and our ordinance and the planning infrastructure of the township has grown by leaps and bounds with the short period of time that you were here. So, you know, again, I don't think it should be bittersweet. This is a good move for you, and it has been good for us. And now we just are gonna look at Karen to do an equal, if not better hire for our next planner. So it's her responsibility, not yours. But thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done for us and our community, your community as well.
No, yeah, no, I appreciate it.
But I think you've set a standard going forward for us, you know, so that's a good thing, because now we've got a good base to start from and to grow from that than where we were 4 years ago.
Man, our GIS maps are so much better.
I can go to public comment if,
Oh, now am I cutting you off?
no, you're good. I'm done, I'm straight.
Go ahead.
If I may, sir, thank you. I think everything that was said around the table at the dais tonight, is true and honest, and I also, hope to find, another talented planner to continue the momentum that I think Miles built. Miles is gonna be horribly uncomfortable right now.
You know I hate this.
He hates this, he's a very humble young man, and I appreciate that about him, and he does not know how to take a compliment. I think all the things that have been said about him are true, he's hardworking, he has created a momentum that I hope we can continue. Trustee Hagerman asked me when I made the announcement if, herself and some members, from this group could, be a part of the hiring committee, and I would welcome that, I told her I would consider that. I think the problem at this time, is going to be attracting, talented candidates. We have 4 currently. 2 of them are qualified, 2 of them have never worked in planning or zoning, which I don't understand as someone that manages and hires people on a regular basis. When you apply for a job, you don't have any experience, and it's bizarre to me. So we'll continue to take those applications, and we may even consult with the recruiter. We did that for the assessing position. We have a tremendous hire in the assessor, if you've met Tim, of the same caliber that I believe Miles is. And we'd like to make an additional hire like that, again, to round out that team in the back for us. Miles, a couple of individuals approached me a couple of years ago and wanted me to increase Miles's salary. I want everybody to know this latest move, I knew it was never gonna be about salary, it was about the position that he's taking on and the challenges in his career. Before, you know, he and his wife maybe have children or don't have children, but whatever direction life takes him next, he definitely has some things he wants to accomplish, and I applaud those things. I've always said that if people don't wanna work here or would like to work somewhere else, like, my goal is always to help people get where they wanna be, and I think getting Miles to the county is a great move for us in Clayton County. I think that Bath Township and DeWitt Township can certainly do more work to get the acknowledgement that we deserve in where the people are at, where, you know, population and money comes from, and there's things that we want to accomplish as well, and this team has been a large part of that. So I appreciate all of you. I know that you all know and recognize that we're in difficult times right now as in terms of the millage. I can offer you that we have more than $3 million in our general fund balance. There are things that are going really well in the township, and there are things that just haven't kept pace since 1978 when the Headley became a thing. Is just us working through some difficult times and working through the challenges. I think we'll meet those challenges appropriately. We've made some great changes on staff with some of the things that were causing us long-term liabilities. We're still working through those things, and we'll continue to do those things. on both sides. Ray, thank you for your comment about what would be cut. We've been accused of both almost keeping that a secret, and then again, on the other hand, fear mongering because people want to know what's on the line. There is some information on the website about what is not mandated by the state for the township to provide. And some of those things include ordinance compliance, parks and recreation, the senior center. There's a lot of things on that list, and we'll continue to work through those. I think you'll see this year a very different budget recommendation from me. There will be one that is a projected budget if the millage passes, and there will be a version of what I would recommend if it doesn't pass. Both will include cuts. One will include many more cuts than the other one. So I do think it will be a public-facing document that people can review and understand what is on the line. And it is not fear-mongering. It is my recommendation of what I would absolutely cut if that millage were both not to happen and additional cuts we need to make. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. We will work very closely with Miles, the supervisor, trustee Hagerman, chair Reich, to make sure that you receive continuous support from me and my staff. I have been attending these meetings quite regularly, except for my medical leave. I probably will come to this group myself and work through things with you, so don't be surprised if I'm sitting over there in that spot, working very closely with you, because I think that's the caliber of group. You've been very productive. You are one of the highest producing groups next to my board, and I want to pay you that care and concern as we continue to work through projects. I know data centers are a huge concern for the public. I know we're being pushed into, why aren't we considering a moratorium? I think Miles and I are both of the flavor that if there's not an immediate need for a moratorium, we can continue to work through our ordinance with you, and should a data center come knocking, the board with counsel from legal and you could at that time enter into a moratorium and get the work done that we need to. But just to enter into a moratorium seems like it's not a good move at this time. We're always open to that feedback, but I do think unless a data center comes knocking with a proposal on the table, there's really no need for us to do that. We can continue our work as we have been along with you. So if you have any questions for me, I know it's not usually a back and forth, but these are weird times, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I'm gonna look great at you because I know you'll have one.
Just one. Is the ballot language going to change a little bit? I don't know if it can change even.
It has.
Because one of the questions that I had, and other people I think had too, is this increase from what the millage is now to what you're going to propose represents a very small percentage increase
Correct.
to the total property tax. But when you put it in the ballot where it's going to go from whatever it is now to 5, that's a 40% increase. People look at that and say,
Yeah.
that you kind of explain that somehow, I don't know if you can do that.
So the legal ease, it is a little bit what it is. Our legal counsel has advised the board that unfortunately, state law directs how that can be
Figured probably.
worded, and therefore it is a little difficult. We have submitted our language to the county. They have reviewed it. They said everything looks good. So we'll be issuing
Good.
that new ballot language. The board voted on it at their last special meeting. It is a little different than it was before, because it's not rolling heavily back to the full amount. The language is a little different, so hopefully people notice that. It's not a trick to
Yeah.
say, if you vote yes, you're really voting no, or if you vote no, you're really voting yes. Like, if we try to make it as clear as possible that a yes vote is yes, I want it to increase, and no is no, I don't want it to increase. So our legal counsel has written that, and we believe that it's solid and it has been submitted.
Can we transition to board member comments so I can speak as a citizen?
Go ahead, just have a dialogue here, that's fine, I don't have any problem with it. If anybody does, they can object.
I wish Miles was here so we can navigate to the township. Can you navigate to the township website?
Should be able to do that. Oh, does documents on demand? Okay, what do you want?
And then scroll down to the ballot language section.
I don't know where that
Keep
is.
going, I think it's,
It's buried at the
It's right
bottom. All right, so click on that. And then scroll to the bottom. There's a media kit.
Media kit.
All right, yeah, so, can you click on the preserve our home image? And draw that up. Okay, so I just want this in the background as I give feedback as a citizen.
okay.
And this is, you know, also as a planning commission member, this, you know, because the budget impacts what we do in planning, right? And how we should, you know, provide advisory information. So I've never not voted yes on a millage proposal, except for this last one.
Okay.
And it wasn't that I can't afford it. I make more in my stipend serving on the planning commission than I pay in
In that increase.
well, in the increase, total, you know, operational millage for the township. You know, I have a cheap house. So I can definitely afford it. I was more irritated by how it was presented to me as a citizen.
Okay.
And it came across as this sort of weird Orwellian threat of, if we don't get this 1.67 mil increase, we're gonna cut recreation services, we're gonna cut senior services. In my head, I was like, this is the bizarrest thing ever. Like, joke's on you, I don't benefit from either of those allocations. You know, looking through the, you know, the 2026 budget, you know, even there, it's not quite clear. You know, my advice for you, as someone who supports, who knows the value of the township, someone who knows the cost of doing these things, is that, you know, you gotta approach it from a carrot standpoint as opposed to a stick standpoint. You know, it's not about what, you know, is gonna be cut. It's about, here's what we've done for the community. Here's what we've done for you. And so, you know, and then, you know, the kind of how the cuts have been discussed but not discussed. And I understand the challenge there of, like, you don't want to name specific things because that just becomes much more threatening. But you know, just being vague about it just comes across as like there's empty threats, right?
Sure.
And so, I'm trying to echo some of this, but I think some of the visuals, like those visuals, the postcard that said, you know, it will cut senior services, it's gonna change the essential nature of our, you know, existence, just struck the wrong chord with me.
Okay. That's a fair observation. Fair. If you could go back to that.
So we should have said dirt road maintenance instead?
Well, I mean, last year, we only got 2 chlorides on the dirt roads, and I'm not sure we're gonna get 3 chlorides this year.
So if you go back.
So there's that. We
so-
talked about senior service, remember when we did this, Miles did this beautiful report on senior services with some recommendations on, you know, not offsetting costs for non-residents. You know, that's something of
Yeah.
like, you
Again,
know,
that's,
$25,000 of savings rate then and there, like, you know, and nothing happened with that.
Yeah.
And this is not about you, this, I mean, you know, this is about the board people, like. Again, I understand it's complicated, but like, you know.
It is. And I think it's gonna take me saying, like, these are the things that we're required to do, and these are the things that we don't have to do, but we do. And for me to say that, I'm just gonna throw this out, but what it really does and why we've been fearful is, you know, I have 5 ladies that work at the senior center, and the minute I say that's on the line, those ladies are gonna go find other jobs, which I think they should. I would not, if I was responsible
Yeah.
for taking care of my family with that job, I would not wanna work somewhere where I knew my job could be eliminated without trying to find alternate, you know, labor to take care of my family. So if that if I say senior services could be cut, those 5 ladies, you know, even though they would have a job through the end of this year, could go find other employment, then I really can't provide the function. But what also happens is I say that, then the board might say, hey, instead of closing it, why don't we charge the people that are not from here more, in order to save it? But those conversations have to happen. First comes my take of, this would have to go, this would have to go. I mean, if I said recreation has to go, that's a significant thing that contains, Park Lake, weed treatment, but it really could, it's one of the things on the table because it's not required for us to do it.
But is it really on the table? I mean, again, looking at the budgets, the recreation, senior service is pretty high, right? But
Yeah.
recreation is one of the smallest budgets.
Because it's one guy and some money.
It's one guy and like, you know, $5,000 for the, you know, the farmer's market and stuff like that, but I think the farmer's market is self-paying. Like, you wouldn't derive any benefit by cutting, recreation services because it's almost no cost outside of the one staff member,
Correct.
right? So,
But that's the level of, if I'm not gonna cut in police and fire and ambulance.
but are you, I mean, some of those, are infeasible to cut, and you can, you
I mean,
know,
ordinance compliance, I could completely cut.
would we notice a difference?
I don't know.
That's unfair, that's unfair.
But that's the discussion the board has to have.
Right.
With the input of residents to
Well,
say,
so-
do you wanna live in a community that doesn't have that?
Perhaps I'm alone in the feeling that I got when what was targeted were the most hit the feels kind of services, recreation for our kids and senior services. There's no discussion about cutting, you know, 3 of the, you know, 5 or 6 FTEs in ground maintenance,
No,
right?
they are on the table.
Well, I mean, but that didn't make it to any of the promotional
Parks
materials.
and Public Works.
Well,
right
it's
here on
it's
my
buried
desk.
on as a bullet point
But
deep
this-
into the website.
I get that, but this information is from me. This is what I do within my
Right.
day-to-day, and you know that
Yeah.
as a former trustee. This is what I'm dealing with. I'm looking at where can I get the biggest chunks of money, $300,000 in road maintenance. Right off the top, I could cut roads. I could cut, if I'm required to mow the cemeteries and bury the people, I can cut a DPW worker, and that accomplishes, public works and cemetery management. I mean, I'm speaking really honestly.
No, I understand, and I mean, we can go back and forth, you know, and say, well, what about public safety? Do we need all these officers? You know,
Yeah,
what's
I mean,
the
that's-
public safety budget for DeWitt Township versus, Bath Township? You know, that's not the issue. I think, and that should be a part of the conversation all along, right? Behind the scenes with the board, what's presented as, to incentivize the population to vote for this millage. That's the part that's important.
Okay.
The feedback that I have for you is that, to me, it came across as like punitive or manipulative, not as an honest conversation about the needs of the township.
Okay.
And pure simple.
Yeah, no, I really do appreciate that. I think that it's difficult when you have to be, I mean, you know that we can't say vote for, we have to be purely informational.
Legally, yes.
I mean, yes, but if you go back to the materials that were provided, I mean, while there wasn't a direct statement, there were very strong indirect statements as to what will occur if this is not funded. You know, go back to that one image I asked to be drawn up, you know, preserve our lifestyle, right? I mean, come on.
But I think that's pretty fair. I mean, it's just from a mathematical standpoint. If there's
Well,
not
all right,
enough
so I have-
money
I have
coming in, then
feedback
you
for
have
you.
to make some
I have
cuts.
feedback for you. So at the meeting, one of the things that you said that I looked into was at any point, the township board could levy millages without taking a vote.
We could
And I
levy
think
a
that's-
road mill up to 3 mills. We could levy a road millage up to 3 mills without a community vote. It was in the statutes before Headley, so it's sort of grandfathered into the way that the
Because that's not how
state
you
operates
presented
it.
it. You presented it as, you know, we're doing a favor for the township by bringing this to them to vote on.
Well, if you maybe just saw the little snippet that was on Facebook, the short
No, I was there.
one,
I
or
was at the meeting.
the whole thing, the context was, in responding to something I'd seen on Facebook, which I maybe now realize was a mistake and I shouldn't have done. But, the context that I led in with was we were being accused by a number of individuals as, putting it on the November ballot was being accused of taxation without representation. That was the phrase that I saw used in multiple
That was
places.
Bob House comment at the beginning of
And,
the meeting. Who
and I-
also made
I
many
take-
statements about firing people and demanding
I
that
take
ending
great.
of Karen's
if you-
contract.
Jason, will you let me finish?
Yes, I will.
And I was taking disagreement with that statement, and in the fact that asking the voters in an election that's already occurring, that isn't gonna cost us more money, like we're having an election in November, there will be voting and ballots and all the things are happening, is absolutely representation. Are we asking the same question we asked in August? No, we're not. We're changing it after some feedback. Taxation without representation would be just, well, we need some money, we can get 3 mills, let's just take it. That was the point I was trying to make. We're not doing that. We haven't even discussed it. It didn't even come up, other than in our training is, these are the ways that townships can generate more revenue. This is one way. We haven't even discussed it. Our first and second actions were to put a vote to the people, which in my mind fully embraces taxation with representation. That was my statement that I was attempting to make. It got very misconstrued. Even my husband told me I didn't say it very well. But, I mean, I'm not a career politician. I don't have speech writers. I don't practice this stuff. It was sort of an off-the-cuff moment at the board meeting, so.
I was watching it and I heard it, and it came across, unfortunately, like we could do it without you, but we want you to be involved.
Right.
Okay,
which was
you were
my
just
intent.
telling, in my opinion, this is why, I just wanna say this, cause that, a lot of people, like, it struck people in a way, but like, it's so unfortunate about local politics. Your neighbor, you're this person that if people don't know, is involved in many local institutions, you're a teacher, you do this with a full-time job. You're saying hard and unfortunate truths, and I just think this is a really hard thing, and, people have asked me, cause I went and got my master's in public administration, if I was like trying to be a manager, I would never wanna do that, for these reasons. I think this is something that's hard to talk about. I know I saw a comment, and I think this list is you guys' attempt to speak to kind of this line of thought that was going on here, which was, somebody said, well, I don't understand why we need more, this was like, again, a comment, I don't understand, and I saw it multiple ways, why we need money like this in Bath. We don't even have fancy services. We do. This is a list of fancy services.
Yeah, absolutely. And the second part of that clip, I think, was getting at, there are no easy choices.
There aren't.
In this situation. The board is put in a fairly difficult position of, there's no easy way out of it. We are certainly dealing with a situation that was put in place years, decades before us right now. And there isn't an easy answer to raise taxes, to which we are also taxpayers, or make cuts, or a combination of all of those, while meanwhile being scrutinized at a very high and sometimes perhaps unfair level by the public. But I also said at the end of that meeting, and perhaps somebody took it to heart more than I had anticipated, was that those of us sitting here have been willing to put ourselves out there and open to that scrutiny. And that's part of what comes along with serving the public in this role, is that you are open to their feelings and opinions. They certainly have the right to express their feelings and opinions, accurate or inaccurate as they may be.
Let me clarify my intention. My intent is not to criticize you, right? You said what you said, right? What I was saying was how that could be construed and come across. I'm not criticizing Karen and the management of the township. I'm not criticizing the board and the management of the township. I think pure and simple, pointing at a list of bullet points and saying we have fancy services is not hitting the mark for what the lived experience is of at least 6 out of 10 voters who voted in the last election, right? And so, you know, the harsh reality is that when people think about communities, you know, they're comparing us to DeWitt, they're comparing us to Meridian. They're comparing us to other small towns that have, you know, kind of, you know, more of a downtown area or an old town area. And so people then wonder.
And a higher effective tax base, and
I
higher
mean-
effective tax rate.
Is it I mean,
It is higher. One thing that,
Well-
especially I saw the DeWitt example, and I kinda mentioned this to Karen, I don't know, and again, Jason, I was gonna say real quick, cause I did cut you off there. We all know you're coming from a place of good faith, and I wish more people would take Kate's comments, my comments, as always coming from a place of good faith. No one's in the, you know, we're in this, cause we're all doing it in a place of good faith, so, okay. With that aside though, I did see some stuff out there about DeWitt Township. One thing that people don't realize, cause again, like, government's complicated and wonky and weird. In the middle of DeWitt Township, what
City.
is DeWitt City?
Right.
In the middle of Bath Township is Bath Township.
Yeah.
So in a city, people don't often understand, a city's base operating millage starts at 15 mils. A charter township starts at 5.
Correct.
Karen, my comment would be, again, I worked on that senior citizen report. You have so many positives in that, and using those are the things we want to continue and improve on, because I believe you do. We've got good parks, we want to improve and continue to build on that. But if we don't see this, we have to start holding back and not improving. And that's not what we think you as citizens want. We want improvements. And
I agree. I think that the feedback, I appreciate you, not trying to interrupt you. I want you to please continue your thought, is that, people move here, the rural character is a large part of why people move here, but also the, what makes this a community, Bath Fest, recreation programs, the lake, the different things that we do offer, I think is what people appreciate about living here. So I take your comments very seriously, Jason. You and I have not always agreed, but you've always been honest, and I appreciate that you always speak your mind. I appreciate that about most people that are serving on township boards at this time, and committees, is that you're able to be honest. I want to hear those things, but it's just, and I know Miles is, I won't say sensitive because that's not a fair word, but I think we're all sensitive to the attacks that I think Supervisor Funes-Bliss brought up, Kate is referencing, is that, you know, sometimes a little portion of what we say gets taken out of context. Sometimes we're accused of wrongdoing, even illegal embezzlement. People talk about us taking kickbacks, people talk about us doing things, you know, untoward with road contracts or sewer work. We do everything we can to follow the law. People can take that or leave that, but there are lots of checks and balances here, and a lot of policies and procedures in place that get followed, and my board does hold me accountable. I know a lot of people don't think that that's true. I do get held accountable, and I am accountable to the state of Michigan as well, so I have to make sure that, you know, audits are filed, and reports are filed, and all the money gets used properly, so I do take issue with me and my staff being accused of doing things incorrectly. If we do find things that are done incorrectly, we try to fix them.
I mean, just speaking to that, you're addressing a very, very small number of individuals on social media
I get that.
that are speaking from a place of wanting to gain retribution or to do harm.
That's correct, but sometimes that's the only voice people will see or hear.
Yeah, the loudest voice in the room type deal.
I would argue that the vast majority of Bath voters are not paying attention to those sources of social media
I
anymore.
appreciate that too.
And responding to them sometimes in ways can do more damage than
Correct.
to
Yep.
ignore them.
That is correct.
Yep.
You are
You
absolutely
know,
correct.
my interpretation of Bob Howe's comments is that he laid out what he genuinely felt, and it was polarizing, but it derailed the
talking about Bob
entire
or
rest of the,
Bill?
I'm sorry?
I think he means Bill.
Bill Howe. Oh,
One of the
Bob Howe
Howes.
is a different guy. Okay.
Sorry.
Who was
Mis-
very
Mr. Howe, who
supportive of the
spoke
millage, in fact,
at,
so let's not,
who spoke at the special
Yeah.
meeting.
thank you.
I felt like that derailed the meeting, because there was so much commentary and so much reactiveness to it. Rather than, talking proactively about, here's what we can accomplish, it was, we have to circle the wagons around our township staff and protect them.
Yeah.
And again, I don't, when I think about, Bath residents, I think about folks like Mr. Severy here, who, live along the golf course areas or the southern tier of the township, right? They're not paying attention. I mean, do you watch Facebook? Do you go to Facebooks?
No,
Do any of your friends in Hawk Hollow go to the Facebooks?
I doubt it.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, I don't feel the need, I took this job and I know that I'm criticized, I'm often not liked for the things I do, and that's fine. I believe in what I do, I believe in serving the people of Bath, and I wanna be, accessible to them. I would, much like a parent, rather have people pick on me than pick on anybody else that works here. Because I know that they're good people that are doing a job, that are taking time away from their families, if they're on our fire department, just giving of themselves to this community, and I've said it before, this community is very much like the community I grew up in, so, I have a commitment to this community and hope to stay here. Al was always worried I was gonna go somewhere. I would love to be here as long as the board will have me here. So, I'm not running for the hills. I think your point is well taken. I think that in trying to communicate, one theme out to the people, we're not gonna figure out what that one size fits all is, and I think that we need to probably take multiple, ways to communicate with people about what is both, available to them if this passes, what will not be available to them if this doesn't pass. I think there's multiple ways to communicate with people, but I think what you're saying is of course taken, to heart. I think many people like you that, live here, maybe work at the state or they work at the university, probably are thinking in a very similar way. So I appreciate your input.
yeah, I would say that 13,806 people think that you're doing a good job, and the township's doing a
I
good
would-
job.
thank you. I
And then the
appreciate
other
that.
7 people are either former supervisors or,
But then on the flip side, Jason, I mean, using the data that we had to go off of this, the police and fire millage and increase from 2 years ago passed very strongly. The school millage from last August passed very strongly. I think maybe the board thought we were in a community whose mindset was more of, well, even if I'm not directly impacted by the senior center, I feel it's an important thing to have in my community. Or even if, my kids haven't been in the soccer club for a decade now, but I think it's an important thing to have in our community. I think that we maybe thought, 80 whatever % of millages across the state passed. I think we thought we were more in that group than we were, and I have to wonder, is it the negativity on Facebook that changed that middle fifth vote from a yes to a no?
so, just a quick comment. What you receive in services from a senior center or a Parks and Rec is kind of an ongoing thing. The services you get from public safety is a extremely low probability where you want 100% assurance that you're gonna get the services, right? And so nobody's gonna mess, I mean, most people who are seeking security or, trying to, live off of retirement is gonna jeopardize, the 2 things that are going to, protect them and their family in the extremely rare case that will happen. General operation millage is a completely different beast in terms of, what's in it for me, right? What do I see on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, well, you could still make the same argument about the schools, though. I mean, many of our residents don't have kids in school anymore and didn't go to schools here, so.
I
But they still, it still passed.
Yeah, I do tend to
strongly,
agree
so-
with that, though. I think overall, though, in society, there's been better messaging around, even if the benefit, because like I don't have kids. Me and my wife will always vote yes on school millage, because as a homeowner, I know there is a very direct, indirect benefit to my housing value in my schools. And I think a lot of people feel that way. It's a more complicated sell, I think, with the general operating millages.
So you're looking for a more positive push.
That's
Could you-
only- that's
could
my-
you- Could you give me a small example of how that, instead of what you read was negative, how you could spin it to be positive?
I mean,
No,
Mark
that-
started
that-
hinting at this in
Yeah,
terms of,
yes.
Just
We
the
have served-
community building that is happening over in that senior citizen center is amazing at the price point of what they're paying for the meals, even if it's for people outside. They're building a community and staying in touch. And that in itself for our seniors is something that we should not lose in any way, shape, or form because A, they vote. B, it helps them mentally, physically be a part of the community.
How do you put
But
that
how
on
do
a
you do
flyer?
Yeah,
Well, I
that's what I'm
think
saying.
too, like maybe what it's saying, and I think this is something trustee Hagerman, you've pointed to in the past, is saying like, we haven't done a great job of tooting our own horn. So maybe instead of saying we're gonna cut Parks and Rec, we say, you know, you currently have access to more than
Yes.
50 programs and services as a result of Parks and
There
Recreation.
you go.
For young to old, whether that's senior or a teen or someone in between, that people may not even be aware of, like running club or walking, you know, whatever that is, like you have access to that currently because of your tax dollars.
yeah, I mean, Bath Township is, the fastest growing township, with, a youth population that's growing, a senior services population that is growing. The Headley Amendment is, reducing our tax base, and we want to provide, high-quality services as expected by you, the residents of.
I'm glad you spoke into the microphone so I can hear that.
Alright,
I mean, I'm not a communications person, I'm just a recipient of the messaging that was out there.
I hear you. Thanks for the opportunity, Miles. I know that you like to get the business done, but I think this is a valuable conversation with this group. You make critical decisions for our community. I appreciate you, and this has been very helpful. So thank you for taking the time with me tonight away from your family to have this conversation. I appreciate it.
We still have an hour and 10 minutes left.
If I can, Karen, I'd like to make two comments.
Yes, please.
One was, you referred to the sewage system as part of the general millage or general account township
It is
expenses.
separate. What I'm
It's-
saying about it is that it doesn't, it's not a mandated service.
That's
but it
correct,
is-
but
it
however-
is supported by a separate fund.
Right.
Correct.
Right, and if that fund is not sufficient to cover the administrative costs and the maintenance of the system, then we need to address the user fees.
Yeah, so we are, it's part of a larger reporting that I need to do to the board and to the rest of the township, but we are under, we're gonna be looking at bonding for some of the projects that we've done, which includes Chandler Road as one of the main things that we're doing, the sewer improvement there of upsiding the pipe and maintaining the system. Part of that will be a new
Yes.
User rate study that will be done by the end of this year. So you will be able to use that data. The old one unfortunately had no
Yes.
fasteners and
Yeah.
had other things that didn't come to fruition, so we need to revisit that study
Correct. It's
and go back
totally
kind of to
irrelevant.
the drawing board on what would it take to support the improvements that we need to make right now.
Right, and that increase in capacity needs to be covered by tap fees.
Correct.
Yes, so that's a whole nother study. And the other thing is that, I don't know how many people are aware of this, but 2 years ago, I was in DeWitt Township meeting, and they pointed out that if they didn't have a turnover of 20% of their properties so that they could reset the valuations, they were gonna be in serious trouble financially. And I don't think that that's occurring in Bath Township. From this data I see, people are staying here longer than 5 years.
I've tried to buy a house here for a long time and have not been able to do so. I do think people are staying in their homes longer, and I think the values may be pricing some people out of what they could do. You know, as a single person that would be trying to buy a home, my price point's a little different than somebody else's, maybe a dual income family. But yeah, I do think it's problematic, but I do think people think because their taxes go up, because there's new buildings and things of that nature, Bath Township realizes a couple $100,000 of new money each year because
Yes,
of
we
that,
do.
but it's not significant. It's not $100,000 to $1 million each year. I know it's a lot to speak of. A couple $100,000 is a lot of money, but that could, in a sense, be a union contract. I mean, I know I'm mixing apples and oranges, but I'm saying, like, the money doesn't go as far.
And we only get a slice of that money,
That's
and
correct.
our inflationary pressures are the same as a general household,
Right.
just on a greater scale.
So, but again, thank you for your comments.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, where are we at now? Let's see, we're at Kate.
I think I did my part already. I would refer anybody who just is watching for my part to jump back 20 minutes, and I think we covered it all. I think that was really it. Our regular meeting was canceled because of the election, and then we had a special meeting, and the only agenda item was the millage. So I believe that you guys are up to speed. Unless you have any other questions.
I think so. Any comments, Kate? Oh, no. George?
As always, I thank those that work behind the scenes to make this flow so good and so nice. It makes it seem like, well, they didn't do nothing all week, but obviously you have done a great deal of work.
It's our largest packet.
Yeah. So, I will miss Miles. I appreciate your, how do I say, your honesty and, when you look into something, the word, transparency is the word I'm looking for. Appreciate your transparency, and I want to echo Jason and, Ray, on your comments.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Good luck, Madison.
Yeah.
I'll see you around.
Oh, yes, I wanted to wish Madison a big fat go green.
How rude.
I second that.
I'd just like to say,
man.
Miles, you've done a wonderful job of mentoring the, I call them trainees, you call them interns, but I've in a different was in a different work environment for 50 years, so we call them apprentices. But there are some people that do not do well at mentoring other people, and it's a very limited skill set in the experience that I've been in, and I've worked for 23 different employers. I've got a pretty good knowledge of what works and what doesn't. But I think you've really got a skill that is invaluable to a lot of people, and your ability to pass it forward is really important, and you do it very well. So I hope that is able to be continued up at the township, or at the county, I should say. I don't know if they're gonna have any interns up there or not.
I don't know if they have an intern program, but they have staff. I mean, they have a team up there. It's not, I won't be, staff of full-time one.
Good. Mark?
As I mentioned to you earlier, you've made Bath a better place
Yep.
today and for the future by the leadership that you've done. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Jason?
You're the best planner I've ever worked with.
I hate this.
Let me elaborate then. Good news is you have a good voting block of 5 people.
Yeah, for sure.
And,
I'll be
And good luck with
collecting
kennels.
letters of reference, yeah, that kennels.
Ray?
No, I think the key thing is what you're talking about is communication is the key. No matter what you're doing, where you are, and I think you've done a really good job of that. I think the leadership, and I agree with other people saying that, you know, the township has come a long ways since you've been here than before you got here. We get some direction now, we're getting stuff done now, I know how many ordinances we passed, and we have,
It's quite a few.
a lot
Quite a
of
few.
stuff has happened since you've been here, so I appreciate that.
Just because, typically I don't say anything, but like, just because this is a live directed meeting, I just wanna say Karen is in the room. I did try to speak in my resignation letter to kind of the team aspect of the township, and I really do, this place reminds me a lot of the Marine Corps sometimes, in the sense of like, if you guys don't know, the Marine Corps is a branch that's known for like doing more with less, and like, you know,
Yep.
making it work, and I feel like the township is very much like that. I feel like we do a lot of services with less. And, you know, Karen's built a flexible environment that allows us to do that. She has created incentives that probably have kept me here longer than I maybe otherwise would have. Some of those financial overtime, but a lot of them just work-life balance. You know, everyone puts in 40 hours of work here, but like tonight we're going long, so tomorrow I'm gonna come in an hour late. And Karen's not like, I saw you in the parking lot at, 9:01, you better be here till 5:01. And that sounds crazy, but that is, in government work, there's most certainly workplaces that operate like that. And because of the flexibility, it's been a good team. As it relates to the interns, like, they're all rock stars. Like, I, again, draw on military experience of leadership and all those values, of course. But, they make their own success. I'm just like here, so. Yeah, no, it's been a good time.
Good, thank you. Appreciate you being here.
At some point, we're gonna do margaritas, at, the place, the Mexican restaurant that's outside of Costco, and
Oh.
I don't know the public meeting rules around that, but I'll give you guys an invite.
They're pretty flexible about that.
Yeah, I think it's allowed, I don't know.
Yep.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, George. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
Jason,